So hello and welcome to another episode of TopTenz. I'm your interim host Karl Smallwood, and today we're talking about 10 medical procedures that sound like total BS. And as with all the videos here at TopTenz, this one is based on an original script submitted to us by a member of our writing team. This would mean Ian 40. Follow them on Twitter at the links you can find below, but let's get to it. If you've made it to this point in life without getting sick or injured, you're probably fictional. It's nearly impossible to live without needing medical help at some point. If you're lucky, you'll only need minor help. Let us know in the comments what medical procedures you've undergone and how much it sucked, because I've had a bunch. For more in-depth issues though, medical science has all manner of treatments and procedures that may be able to help you. Some are simple, some are complex, and a handful are so weird they sound like they have to be totally made up, but they're not. Just consider number 10. A Botta bag involves sewing a urine bag over an open wound. If someone told you you need a Botta bag, you'd be forgiven for thinking it was either a horrible euphemism or the nickname for something used to smuggle drugs. In reality, the Botta bag is a medical procedure used to help close over stomach wounds. It's not unheard of that a patient's stomach can essentially burst after certain procedures. Closing the ensuing wound can prove extremely difficult. There are various methods, such as using a mesh or packing the abdominal cavity, but they can all be risky and lead to further, sometimes worse complications. The Botta bag, so named because it was first tried in Bogota, has got to be one of the safest methods. And hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. I'm saying Bogota, it could be Bogota. If I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, yell at me in the comments, I apologise. If a patient has an open stomach wound, doctors can take a sterile plastic bag, often a bag used to collect urine, cut it open, and the bag is then placed over the wound like a shield and then sewn to the skin. The patient will have a fully exposed hole covered over by this plastic bag sewn on top of it that can allow the stomach wound to heal underneath, or can at least allow the wound to remain covered and sterile until doctors are able to properly treat the cause of the damage and prevent further injury. No, I did have stomach surgery once, and I, being a kid, didn't know what stitches were. So when I got home and had my appendix scar, and I get a bath and I see a piece of string on my stomach, I pulled it out like an idiot. Number 9, rectal prolapses can be treated with sugar. Few words in the English language can inspire discomfort quite like rectal prolapse. The idea is not a pleasant one, and the reality even less so. In fact, we're not even going to show you what one looks like. One, because we don't want to get demonetized, and two, nobody wants to see that. So here's a picture of a kitten instead. You're welcome. Any number of reasons, including issues with muscles and ligaments, can cause a patient's rectum to slide out of place, i.e. out of your body, and this can lead to dangerous complications if it's not resolved. In some cases, surgery may be required to fix the problem, but not always. In fact, there's one method that's recommended for a person to try at home if this was a one-time sort of deal you'd like to fix on your own, and let's be honest, most people probably want to fix this on their own. No one wants to be that guy in the hospital saying that they fell onto their vacuum cleaner. So the doctor-approved method for repairing a rectal prolapse at home requires sugar. And this is if you're unable to use a gloved hand to gently push it back inside. You sprinkle it with granulated sugar and wait 15 minutes. The sugar won't harm the tissue, but it will absorb moisture. In doing so, it will cause the prolapse to shrink and make it easier to push back into place. Just cheers to the author for making me see and read that with my own eyes. Well done. Number 8, Osteoonto KERO prosthesis. So the term Osteoonto KERO prosthesis doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. Thankfully, it's not something most of us need to know. If you ever require the procedure, you better believe you're going to remember it, because it involves sticking a tooth into your eye, known as, quite fittingly, tooth in eye surgery, which doesn't exactly convey any sense of authority or legitimacy, hence Osteoonto KERO prosthesis. The procedure can restore vision to those who suffer corneal blindness. A patient's tooth is removed and doctors will drill a hole through it. In the hole, a small plastic lens is placed. The tooth is then planted in the patient's cheek so that tissue can start growing over it and it can develop a blood supply. The skin from the mouth is then sewn into the eye, and the tooth is sewn onto the surface of the eyeball with the lens in the correct position. And this new lens functions much in the same way an eye would. And for anyone curious about the efficacy of such a bizarre and rudimentary sounding treatment, patients have gone from being totally blind to having 20/20 vision as a result. So, chalk one up for science. Number 7, laser surgery can turn brown eyes blue. Laser eye surgery to improve vision has been around for years now, and most people are familiar with it. But it's not the only kind of laser eye surgery you can get. Plastic surgery is also an option if you don't like your eye colour. For those who have brown eyes, and it only works for brown eyes, there is a procedure to burn away the pigment with a laser and leave your eyes devoid of any pigmentation, which makes them appear to be blue. The process takes just a few seconds, but will require a couple of weeks to show the results. You'll also have to go south of the border to get the procedure in the first place, as it's not approved in the United States. And for anyone out there who wants more options for eye colour, there's a second option in the form of iris implants. This is supposed to be for people with iris damage, but coloured silicone replacements can be surgically implanted, permanently changing one's eye colour. They're known to cause a host of side effects and complications though, so if you want to have those sparkling blue eyes, be prepared to pay the price. A constant source of argument between myself, my friends, anyone I've been intimate with is, what colour are my eyes? I say they're green. I have had close to screaming arguments with people who say they're blue, other people who say they're green, other people say they're brown. I don't know what colour my eyes are, and it's starting to cause problems. Help me. Moving swiftly on. Number 6, Instab breasts or vacation breasts give the patient bigger breasts for a single day. Breast implants remain one of the most common cosmetic surgery procedures in the world. There are around 300,000 of them performed every single year in the United States. The procedure costs on average $4,500, and that's not including the cost of anesthetics and other expenses like aftercare. For those who aren't willing to commit to the procedure, maybe just want to take their augmented breast for a test run, there's a procedure called Instab breasts, which filled me with confidence, also known as vacation breasts. It offers a temporary idea of what you might get if you went ahead with a more permanent solution. The process, which lasts for just 24 hours and still comes with a price tag that ranges from $2,500 to $3,500, involves a doctor injecting saline solution directly into the breast tissue, causing them to immediately swell. And if the procedure is done correctly and safely, within 24 hours the swelling will go down as the body absorbs the saline and pees it all out. So $3,500 for big old honking knockers for a day. So I was going to make the crude joke that I know every guy in the audience is thinking right now of can the equivalent be done for a guy? So you know what? Google that on your own. Safe search is your friend. Number 5, Rotationplasty turns your foot into your knee. The name Rotationplasty doesn't sound ominous or odd at first, but the reality of the procedure is quite perplexing, especially at first glance. The procedure is most often used to treat bone cancer, generally in or around the knees of children. The knee, the bottom of the femur, and the upper portion of the tibia are entirely removed to excise the tumours. The lower portion of the leg is then turned right around a full 180 degrees and then attached to the rest of the femur. The ankle becomes your new knee, and the foot is on backwards where you'd normally expect the knee to be. Once the surgery is complete, a prosthetic can be attached that allows the patient to more or less walk as normal, since they now have a functional knee. Number 4, EPR involves removing a patient's blood and replacing it with cold saline. Leaning heavily into what looks more and more like the realms of science fiction is EPR, or Emergency Preservation and Resuscitation. The procedure is a kind of suspended animation meant to give doctors more time to save a patient in a time-sensitive emergency situation. Like similar ideas in fiction, a patient is forced into a state of hypothermia and their organs are slowed down to the point where they're basically non-functional. That means their body has to be cooled to about 10 degrees Celsius or 50 degrees Fahrenheit. This is done by literally replacing all of the patient's blood with freezing saline. The process can extend the time doctors have to operate by up to 2 hours, and it's only done in the case of a severely traumatic injury, think a gunshot wound, when the patient has already lost more than half of their blood and their heart has stopped. Normally patients only have a 5% survival rate in situations like those. The cooling shuts down the patient's brain, preserves the organs, and for all intents and purposes, they are dead at that moment. But here's the thing, you can still perform surgery on a corpse, and by using EPR, an injury that would give doctors mere moments to try and address can now be done over the course of 2 hours, which of course greatly increases the chance of the issue being fixed. And for anyone curious about what you do after you've done the surgery to the body, you just take the saline out, put warm blood back in, slowly raise the body temperature, and hopefully, with everyone's fingers crossed, the patient will make a full and complete recovery. The first time this was done was in 2019, and yeah, go science. Number 3, defecography requires you to get an x-ray while you poop. For doctors to gain a, shall we say, fuller understanding of a patient's overall condition, imaging is often necessary. You've got your CAT scans and your MRIs and your x-rays, and then you've got your defecography. Defecography is done with a certain kind of x-ray or MRI, and its focus is entirely on how you poop, particularly how your muscles work during the process of pooping. Unlike a traditional x-ray where you just hold still and get an image taken, for this one, you need to be a little more, how do we put it diplomatically, active. which is to say it has to be done while you're in the process of taking a dump, hence the name. As you can, but probably don't want to imagine, this is a little more in-depth than most imaging processes. And it gets worse. They don't want to watch you poop actual poop because, ew. Instead, they pack you with barium paste, which has the same consistency as poop, which we're not going to question right now because it's barium and it shows up easily in scans. And once you're quite literally filled to the brim with barium, you get to sit on a special scanning toilet and drop the kids off at the pool. The scans will show how all your various organs and muscles work during the process and ideally will aid in diagnosing whatever condition brought you to a doctor in the first place. We hope. Number 2, the Kenberg Procedure can turn your forearm into a pincer. If you were to get into an accident where you lost one of your hands, you might expect your options about what to do next are limited. Maybe the hand could be reattached under certain circumstances, but what about if that's not an option and you are stuck sans hand? Well, most of us will probably consider a prosthesis as the next choice. Hand prostheses have existed since the 16th century and modern ones can be quite advanced. There is, though, another option that is less well known for patients who have lost a hand, the Kenberg Procedure, which dates back to the early 1900s and it involves turning someone's forearm into a lobster claw-like pincer. The procedure is rarely done and typically only ever performed on patients who cannot afford a prosthetic but still need their hands for work. It allows for some minimal dexterity because it separates the arm bones, the ulna and the radius to create two appendages like long, inflexible fingers. The patient can move and grip things, though obviously not as strongly or as finely as they could with a functional hand. And as crude as this sounds, it does offer one pretty substantial benefit over a prosthesis, that being that the patient retains some level of feeling and sensitivity in the limb, which for some is preferable to a prosthetic. Number 1, Poox is a Botox procedure to hide a gambler's tells. So everyone these days knows about Botox, right? You inject some poison into your face and you look like a porcelain doll that's in the middle of shitting itself. But less well known, although essentially just a niche version of the exact same thing, is Poox. And it's 100% a gimmick that appeals to a very small segment of the population. That doesn't mean it can't make someone a few dollars. So if anyone unfamiliar with the idea of a poker face, it's a gambling term, and in gambling games like poker, you're not just playing the odds and the hand that you dealt, you're often playing against the people on the table with you, and to do that, you need to be able to hide, your reactions to things, and they need to do the same, and part of poker is reading your opponents and then trying to prevent them from reading you in turn. Which, yes, makes sense, but what if you have, say, a very expressive face, and you can't just sit there like this? And if that happens to be the case, then Poox might be the procedure for you, which involves injecting just a little bit too much Botox into your forehead so that your face is too firm and frozen to express any real emotion and you look like a Kardashian, thus making you a far better poker player. Is there any scientific validity to the idea? No, but it still exists. So thank you for tuning in to this episode of TopTenz. Hopefully everyone at home enjoyed watching this video. I certainly enjoyed learning some of the things contained therein. The rectal prolapse stuff, not so much, but hopefully someone out there found it interesting. And if anyone out there found it helpful, you're welcome that you don't have to Google that now. This can be just between us, okay? So if you like the video, leave a like, anything to say about it, or feedback, or anything you want us to cover in the future, let us know in the comments to see more like this. Subscribe, follow myself and the writer Ian 40 on social media, the links you can find below, and as always, have the day you all deserve. So I guess let's try and go through all the injuries that I've had over time. So first of all, starting up here, split my head open when my brother powerbombed me onto the mattress. We were doing wrestling, don't try this at home. And I went backwards and landed on the corner of the radiator, which split the back of my head open. And then we have here, my ears were pinned back because I had some right wing nuts on me as a kid. And then I had to go back in for more surgery because I got in a fight and I think my brother punched me in the head and the stitches came out. So I had to go back in for that. Jaw, I've not had my nose broken yet, but my jaw was set out of place with a fight in school. Shoulder, I've actually not broken a bone yet, but I dislocated this when I was drunk once, and that's get pushed back in. My hands, show this off, let's keep going. My hands, if I hold my hands out like this, you'll see that finger pokes out more than that one. That's because I was bitten by a dog when I was 8 years old, I think. And basically I have no muscle in that part of my arm, so there's no grip in this hand, and the muscle that stops, keeps your finger in place, makes that one pop out more. There's no grip there. Like further down, I had my appendix out. I think I told in the video I pulled all the stuff out. Bruised my coccyx once or twice. And then I think dislocated. Oh yeah, my knee got really badly twisted when I was running away as a kid from something naughty I'd done and really badly twisted my knee. But then got embarrassed and told my parents, so I walked with a limp a bit. And my toes, I think on a night out, I was like two-stepping in a rock club and busted a toe, and I had to, in the morning, like step on my toe to pop it back in place. It dislocated, and I'll never forget just the immense feeling of just relief as it popped back in place, and all that. You could literally feel the blood rush back in to the limb. And yeah, that's mine. I'm sure there's someone out there who's had way more injuries, and that's the thing. People love talking about how they got injured. But yeah, that's me. I'm barely held together, but never broke a bone. Knock on wood. Ow. Cheers!
Ouch! Ow!